Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, the very last mini masterclass of 2023, the very last week of the year, the very last, I don't know, so many things. It's all the last things that are happening this week. And so we are going to focus our mini masterclass today on how you can prepare for 2024. Now, obviously, 2 days or 3 days before the end of the year, you should have probably started doing some of this, but actually it's not too late if you put yourself, in a position next week or effective in January to do a lot of these things. You still can set yourself up for success in 2024, even if you haven't thought about it at all, and even if you're missing some of these components now in your business. I'm going to give you some tips on how to plan for 2024 to be the best it can be as a business owner. And there's a million things I could give you suggestions for, so I'm just going to kind of go over maybe like the top 15 to 20 things that you can do for your business. But as always, if you need more help than that, you can always reach out, and we're always here to help you and get you on the right track, no matter what time of the year it is. You guys, I'm helping people right now who never did 2022, 2021, 2020. So it's never too late. The idea is that at some point, you're going to have to do it. So it's always better to do it before it's a problem. As you go, use the tools, but it's never too late. So if you're watching this and you're like, man, I haven't even done 22 yet, let alone 23. I'm so not ready. 24 is already going to start off, a mess or overwhelming. It's okay, and it's not too late to start. So I'm going to jump right in. Say hi if you've joined. If you're watching the replay, as always, you can leave your comments here below, and we will go back and answer the questions. If you're live, feel free to ask your questions live, and I'll answer them live. But here we go. So where I'm going to start with planning for 2024 is budgeting. Have you created your budget yet? And if you're using a tool like QuickBooks, it is very easy, if the information has been provided all year long, up to date, for QuickBooks to create a very comprehensive budget where you can pull from your actuals. You can understand exactly what you spent and made last year, and then build your projections from there. Do you want a 10% increase in sales? Do you want a 25% increase in sales? Do you want to lower payroll? Do you want to lower your dues and subscriptions and get rid of some of the stuff that you don't use, you don't need? It's always on your list. This is one way we can check that off, is by updating your budget, so that every month it will be a number for you to review, and you can say, oh, I still am over budget $24 because I haven't canceled that one or two things, right? So it really helps you stay in line with your goals. It helps you remember the things that you wanted to do that are just kind of in the back of your head and they just never really get done. This is a great way to do that because you have numbers to review that will remind you consistently, as long as you're reviewing it consistently, which you absolutely should do. If you're going to take the time to budget and you're going to just make it happen, use it as a tool so you can see how you're doing against your projections. So budgeting can also be done on an Excel form. Budgeting can be done in all different kinds of softwares. Depending what industry you're in, you may have a different software that you're using for budgeting. But bottom line, you should have your budget ready to go, as early as you can into 2024, so that you can pull in those actuals and go against your goals. Okay, so budgeting is number one way to how to plan for 2024. You can also do budgets by quarter, if you want to just kind of take it baby step at a time, especially if this is your first time working with a budget. It might seem overwhelming to do an entire year's budget, or you may be adding new verticals to your business and you're like, I just don't know how they're going to go, so I'm not sure exactly how to budget against it. Take it quarter by quarter. That still helps you analyze and make business decisions based on the numbers. The next idea is your SOPs. An SOP is a standard operating procedure. And these are things that if you are an employer, you should absolutely have in place so that every single employee knows every process they're supposed to do, all the policies and procedures, all the softwares, how to get into things, how to get out of things, what to do when, different scenarios are, there's a really amazing tool called Trainual, and it's a software and it helps you, it guides you step by step. We use it in our practice and it's really comprehensive. So if you haven't put SOPs in place, it is by far one of the things that I wish I would have done differently so long ago, because everything was in my head. So if I'm talking to you and you're not an employer yet and you're just like, oh, everything's in my head, it's fine, I don't need to do this. Trust me, the amount of time it takes to go back into your brain, pull out, extract all the information that you know, and then have a new employee come on who doesn't have a clue what they're doing, interpret what you pulled out of your head, do the job, probably not well because you probably have been doing it for so long you didn't actually take the time to do step-by-steps, because I did that too. And then you've got to do it all over again. The time is exhausting. So if you're a solopreneur, do yourself a favor. Even if it's just scratching on a piece of paper as you're doing stuff, or hey, film yourself on Zoom doing something. If you're like a clerical type position or something where you have, access to online all the time, film yourself on Zoom and turn that into an SOP so that there's a step-by-step breakdown. Another tool we use is ScribeHow. So if you look up scribehow.com, it allows you to, record every single click that you make while you're doing something. So if you need to show a customer all the time the same thing, this is how you get into this, this is what you do for that, this is where you look up this information, you can use ScribeHow, create a PDF of the exact process that you used to do it, instead of having to tell these people over and over and over. Same with your employees. I've actually tasked my employees that when you find a new thing that needs to be updated in the SOP, you need to create a Loom video. So here's another software idea, Loom, Loom. You need to go in and create the Loom video and, give it over to the operations manager so that the SOP can be updated. I'm not doing all that work. I'm delegating. So these are things that you need to be kept often. Like you are always updating an SOP. You're never just sitting and waiting and just sitting back, because eventually they're just not going to be that what they used to be. The business will have evolved, the task will have evolved, things change, technologies change. There might be a way simpler way to do this in 6 months than there is right now. So you're always regularly going back and checking on those SOPs to see what needs to be updated. So that's another way to really plan for 2024, is to go through every SOP you have or start creating them, map out some time to create them. I do 2 days a week, that are focus days. So my Monday is my client focus day. I do nothing but client work that hasn't been done. That's catch up. I don't take any calls, any meetings, because I need a full day to go in and at least, attend to those things that all week long have popped up and I didn't get to. Then on Wednesdays, I have what I call my CEO focus day. That is where I do everything that's biz dev, everything that's like internal, not client facing, but the business needs me to be doing, so that I have, again, a full entire day to focus on those things. Because I know as a business owner, you get pulled to here and there and you get distracted all the time and things just pile up because you can never complete a task. So that's just an idea that I'm offering. Maybe you schedule out some blocks of time. We do calendar blocking for all of our client work and our internal work. All of our meetings are on a calendar. Get a calendar going and stick to it. Give yourself business hours. Give yourself priority time. Also, calendar your personal time. Calendar your personal events. Calendar your non-negotiables. It is so easy as a business owner to say, okay, well, I can go to the gym between 10 and 12 today because I don't have any calls. And then 9:58, you get a call that takes an hour and a half. And there goes my gym time because I didn't put it on the calendar. I'm not committing myself to getting that done for myself. I'm not, prioritizing myself. You've got to put both personal and business on a calendar. Time blocking is huge for us because without it, we would never know what was going on when. So that's another way you can get 2024 organized and plan out. I have things on the calendar already through November of next year. So if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. It doesn't happen. And I can't tell you how many times I haven't put something on a calendar and then the time goes by and I get a call, oh, we were going to talk at, and I was like, oh God, it wasn't on my calendar. And I can't remember because you can only eventually remember so many things as an entrepreneur. So calendar is the next thing I suggest. Make sure it's always up to date, accurate, and you're putting your personal information on there. Now, what I do is I give my office manager access to my personal calendar so she also knows what not to book around. So you have to be able to do that too. If it's not just you accessing your calendar on your personal things, you can make multiple calendars. I'm talking about Google Calendar right now, but I'm sure Microsoft and other calendars have similar features, but you can make different colors that represent different things. You could make a personal color, a business meeting color, a blocked time color, a on-site meeting color. You can do all different types of calendars within your calendar and then share those calendars with the people that need to see them or should have access to. Because otherwise, if you're delegating that task, you might have somebody blocking time that you put on your personal calendar, but they didn't know about. So that's important to remember. Okay, next is going through your tech stack and checking your systems. Is everything you have in place actually being used? Because that's huge. People download softwares all the time or get software because they see a commercial or an ad and they're like, oh my gosh, that would be so great if we had that. They start their subscription and then they never go back in and they update what they need to update about it. They don't put it into play. They don't figure out how it's going to work for their business because it's time. And then it's, too much and then I can't handle it. I don't know. And I'll give you an example of one that our company just recently discovered, Zapier. I've had a Zapier subscription for 1.5 years. And we just last week or the week before started producing Zaps. And if you don't know what that is, Zapier is a program that will create automations. So it triggers, there's triggers. And let's say a client signs their engagement, then Zap will automatically send an email template out to them, will automatically create their customer portal from that email initiation, which automatically prompts this. So it's just a way to automate things. And 1.5 years I've been paying for this and we just started using it. So it's important to go through your tech stack to make sure you have everything you need to have, but also that what you've got is working for you and is making efficiencies, not creating workarounds, not creating problems that you're like, oh God, this program doesn't even work the way I want it to, then get rid of it. Find the next best solution that's actually going to increase efficiency, give you back some time, take away payroll dollars that are spent creating workarounds, etc. So analyze your tech stack and make sure that you have everything for your business and your industry that helps you. One of those things would be something like QuickBooks Online. Do you have a way to invoice your customers, to keep track of your bills, to build your budgets, to provide payroll to your employees all in one spot? Or are you going and doing all this all over the place and it just takes so much of your time? Okay, that's my next suggestion. Next is consulting reviews. Have you recently sat with a consultant and gone over any of this? Because there are consultants out there for all kinds of things business. And your books would be one thing you would want to review. Tech stacks are another, industry specific. If you have a specific industry, you might want to Google, a tech stack for this industry or that industry. And then maybe you'll find a consultant. I would highly suggest it. Get it done early in the year. Within January, you should be meeting with somebody that can help you understand if you're on the right track. If you're feeling like you're fumbling, if you're feeling like everything's so hard and you're taking the long way around, there's no reason for it because there's people out there that know exactly what you need and how to help you get from A to Z in a straight line without doing that. Right? So that in itself is going to save you time. Yes, it's a cost up front to hire the consultant, but worth every single penny of the time and money and energy you're going to save not having the right things in place down the line. On piggybacking on consulting education, have you taken the time to educate yourself in your industry or on the parts of your business that you're not good at? because you're going to need to educate yourself or delegate the education. If you're like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm giving this to, Joe. Yeah, Joe needs to know what the hell he's doing correctly. Have you taken the time to give him either the permission to go get the education? Are you paying for his education? Have you hired someone to give him the education to make sure he knows exactly what he's doing? Otherwise, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. And I'm talking a collective you, meaning not just one business, but I've seen so much money wasted in my career in the last 10 years that people have paid out to others to perform a job that they weren't doing correctly or accurately or well. And they had to end up coming back in, hiring someone else to clean up a mess, or they had to come back in and clean it up themselves. Or. I mean, I have just seen it so many times. So that's a great way to set yourself up for success, is to invest in education for yourself or those around you that are doing their jobs, and then you can make sure they're doing it right and efficiently. All right, estimated taxes. Every year when you file your tax return, if you know that, or if you did owe more than $1,000, you have to, so HAVE, have to make your estimated taxes. And that means if you don't make them, you get a penalty and a fine and interest for not having made them when you do eventually file your tax return. It's not I don't really want to do this. I don't have the money, so I can't do it. You should be setting aside, in your budget that we talked about very first, you should be setting aside the fact that you owe a certain amount every quarter for taxes. Now, if you owed $1,000, then your estimated tax would be $250 every quarter, equal to that $1,000 that you owed last year. If you didn't owe money, then you don't owe estimateds. If you owed a ton of money, then you're going to basically divide that number by 4, state and federal, and you're going to pay that number every quarter. Now, when you file your taxes, your tax preparer will give you vouchers. They're called vouchers. There's 4 different ones telling you exactly what that you owed. In the case that you are filing an extension this year, therefore you're not going to have a tax return to really understand what your estimated should be, you can still consult with your tax preparer. You can still get an estimated number of what you might probably somewhat owe, given everything, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and still make those payments without the voucher. You go into online on your IRS account, your state account, and you just make estimated payments. I highly advise that in your budget somewhere or in your frame of reference, you're keeping track of what you should be paying in estimated taxes, because it just builds and builds and builds. Imagine people all the time are owing $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to $50,000 in taxes. Imagine coming up with that big of a chunk, or giving $10,000 4 times a year, and when you finally file your tax return, you only owe $10,000 more. Now, on the flip side, if you start making your estimated and your business changes and you didn't end up owing what you paid, you do get your refund, just like any other refund, tax refund. So it can act like a little savings account. It will keep you from getting those additional penalties, which is a way you want to put yourself in a position of success, that you're not gaining penalties and interest and paying more money out of pocket than you absolutely need to for things that you are avoidable 100%. Evaluate your job descriptions. If you are an employer, I would highly advise you go through an annual review of your job description. Does it still meet the needs of that employee? Is she or he still doing just those tasks, or have you added a whole bunch of more things to that and you really need to renegotiate because now they were hired as one thing and now they're doing something completely different? Does that person still fit the mold for what was required of that job description? Because life happens, things change, people change, accidents happen, people have babies. Maybe they're not a good fit for this. And instead of having to maybe fire them down the line because they're not producing the way the role intends, you can shift them into a role that better suits who and what they are at this time. So going through those job descriptions, or if you haven't done it yet because you haven't hired yet, start creating them in your mind. If I had the perfect person for this job, or if I could take 10 things off my plate. I'm going to create a job description based on those 10 things I don't want to do anymore, so that when I'm in a position to hire, I know exactly what I'm going to delegate, and I can find somebody that best fits and suits that job. Now, you might have so many things you want to delegate that it might be 2 or 3 different scopes of work for 2 or 3 different people, and that's okay. Maybe it's an outside salesperson, maybe it's an admin, maybe it's an operations manager, maybe it's a second you to come in and do more of what you're doing. So if you haven't done it yet, start thinking, what would I want to get off my plate if I could, and start creating job descriptions out of that. If you have roles in mind that you want to create in your company, start mapping out what that looks like. And if you already have job descriptions, analyze them, make sure they still are appropriate for the person who's in that job, the price that you're paying them, and how things may have evolved, because it will help you with retention. And trust me, turnover is very expensive for a business. I mean, you have to pay for training. You've got to bring in this person simultaneous to this person doing their job. Now you're paying 2 people at the same time, even though that person may be exiting. You've got all that extra payroll. You might be having to step in and take things, revenue generating activities, off of your plate to help this new person, which costs you potential sales, potential, a residual income. So it costs a lot of money to have turnover. So the longer you can retain an employee, the better. And putting them in the right role, the right fit for them, is key for that. One of the keys for that. Employees should bring in 3 to 5 times what you're paying them. So one of the biggest reasons people don't hire is that they're afraid. They don't think they can afford it. They're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. I don't think I can do it. So when you're creating your job roles, you've got to define how this role brings you 3 to 5 times what you're paying that role. And the way it brings you that are 3 key ways. There's multiples, but I'll give you the top 3. They're going to take things off your plate, which gives you more time to go out and scale your business and deepen your relationships and build more verticals. Do the things that you do for your business while someone else is doing these other things. That's a way they can take time and money off of your plate, but also let you get more money in the door. They're going to give you time back. So yes, they're an expense, but if the time they give you back allows you to go out and market, go out and do speaking events, allows you to go to conferences that you haven't gone to, that give you the knowledge to bring in to make more out of what you're doing, that's how they're doing that. Or they could be bringing business with them. You could say, hey, we'll hire you, but you need to bring your book of business with you, depending on what your industry is, of course. Or do you have a customer base? Do you have a call log that you can bring with you? Do you have, with integrity, not stealing other people's clients and such, but they could be bringing money in the door for you automatically, as just because they're you're hiring them. Or they could be a salesperson. That salesperson should have a quota, should have a commission, or a compensation plan with commissions and bonus structures, and all of that should be figured out before you even try to hire somebody, so that you have it clearly defined throughout all the conversations and onboarding of them. And if they're not producing, guess what? You get to let them go. They're no longer an expense of yours. And yes, you might take a hit. It's such a normal thing for an employer to hire the wrong person for the job. They take a hit, they have to let them go, they have to bring in. So don't feel like, oh God, I did this wrong. It's very normal, but the more homework you do up front, putting yourself in place ahead of this, the better success you'll have. So those are some of the ways they need to, but always be thinking that how does this bring me 3 to 5 times what I'm paying them, right? And then you have to set your hourly pricing or your project pricing or your contract pricing around compensating for their time too. So it's not just you. When you're a solopreneur, you can say, okay, I'll charge you $50 an hour because it's just me and that's a decent rate, to pay my bills. Now you've got overhead. Now you've got other people's bills to pay. Now you've got payroll. Now you've got more softwares. Now you've got bigger, chunks of change flying out the door. Your pricing needs to reflect all of that. So when you're looking at your margins, if you're keeping your books correctly, you'll start to see, oh, my margin is shrinking, so I need to adjust my pricing, right? So that all ties into the things that we're talking about. Marketing plan. Have you sat down and made a clearly defined marketing plan that tells the story of what you want people to see you as, what you want people to know about you, who you are? One of the biggest things we work on is making sure people understand who we are, what our personality is, that we're not your everyday accountant. Hopefully, if you watch some of our stuff, you're liking what you're seeing and you're here for a reason as well. But it's all part of like getting that ideal client, because when you get your ideal client and they know, it's a good fit because they agree with your marketing message and it's all aligning, and you'll keep them longer, you'll make more money, you'll be able to upsell them, you'll be able to actually do more for them because they actually are really trusting you in whatever you're doing for them. So if your marketing plan is, I'll post on Instagram every once in a while when I feel like it, that's not really going to do much for you. And it is a time suck. Oh my goodness, it's a time suck. So if you're going to spend the time, you've got to have a plan. You've got to put it into place. I have several resources I can send you if you want help with the marketing side of things, because trust me, I needed help. This is not my thing, but now that I've put myself and given myself the education, what a great little segue there, that I needed, and consulted with people that were the experts, now I really feel that it's helping my business. And I've gotten so much good feedback about it because I took the time, I went all in, I spent the time, the money, and it is what I want it to be now. So going back a little bit from our topics in the front and marketing plan. Now we also do a thing where we map out our entire month's worth of posts and content and messaging ahead of time. So like today, before we jumped on here, I was with my office manager for a couple hours, and that's what we were doing. We were planning content for the entire month of January. So yeah, you still want to take the time, even after you seek the knowledge and the education, you've got to put that into play as well. So that's part of our calendaring. Every Wednesday we have a marketing meeting, and all we talk about during that meeting is marketing and our messaging and content and branding and all of that. It's on our calendar consistently. So we don't, because otherwise it was like, yeah, we should talk about that. And then 1,000 other things come up and we never got to it. So very intentional calendaring and planning ahead. All right, 2 more things. Calendaring deadlines. So there's all kinds of information out there, ChatGPT, Google, resources like us, ways to find out when your deadlines are so that things are not a surprise. And you should be calendaring them. You should maybe even give yourselves a reminder 1 week before, or actually, one of the things we do is if I have like an annual subscription, for example, that's coming up, so it's going to be a bigger chunk because it's annual, I put on my calendar a week before this subscription hits us next Thursday or whatever it is, so that I have a visual like, oh yeah, that big chunk is coming up. But same with deadlines. You can deadline calendar. You can make them all day events instead of time blocked events. And then they will be up at the top of your calendar for the whole entire day. And you can do things like, and I'll just give you a couple right now. January 16th is the estimated taxes for the 4th quarter of 2023. So just when you think 23 is over, bam, you got to pay the 4th quarter taxes on that. Also in January, 1099s and W-2s are also due at the end of January. So if these are things that you want to make sure you remember, that you don't forget, put them on a calendar. Make sure you're calendaring your deadlines. We're going to actually be showing those to you all month long, all year long, really, when things are due. So you can always check back on our pages for them as well, or take advantage of our free resources. But I highly suggest those, because then you're like prepared. Oh yeah, that's coming up. Instead of, oh crap, that's tomorrow and I'm not prepared at all, right? Or make sure whoever's doing the work for you is prepared, right? Okay, last thing, and I'm sure this is going to be a shocker to y'all, but verifying your bookkeeping is like probably should have been number 1, but you've got to verify your bookkeeping in order to set yourself up for success the next year. Because if your current year numbers are all out of whack and all wrong, you can't budget from them. You can't understand how to make pivots in your business, like hiring or firing, changing your margins, raising your prices, all the things that we've been talking about. And going into 2024, you're still going to be fumbling with correcting things that then lead to 2024 starting balances to be incorrect. And a lot of what I see every year, thank you, Kate. She says, great reminders. What I see every year is that prior year books have never been reconciled or have never been verified or, marked accurate. And therefore the current year is also wrong because it continues forward. It carries through. Your balance sheet will carry through from year to year to year to year. So even if your profit and loss is pretty good, accurate, that flip side of your business has to also be updated and verified. So going back to seeking a consultant, if you don't think you know it's right, if you're not sure how to tell it's right, if you're not sure what to do every day to make it right, get a consultant involved. I happen to know somebody that's, I highly recommend, but you can definitely reach out to anyone that you would like to help you do that. But verifying your bookkeeping is huge. It's going to let you do so many of these other things accurately and in time to be successful in 2024. So those are my tips on getting a good head start and planning for 2024. It's not too late, even though it is December 28th. But the sooner you try, the sooner you'll have results and success. And I know that business changes always, and there's variables that you're going to be like, oh, I wanted to do this, but life happened, and so that can't happen right now. Fine, no problem. Take it off your table, take it off your plate, change it up, but replan for the new thing, right? Put yourself ahead of the plan for the new thing. Don't just give up on it altogether. Those are my tips, and I can't wait to see all of you again in the new year. Our next mini masterclass is January 11th. I almost said July. I don't know, I'm jumping ahead just a bit. January 11th, and we are going to have special guest Dawn Brolin back with us. She is a certified fraud expert. Thank you, Jen. You too. Happy New Year. She's a certified fraud expert and tax professional, and she is going to talk to us about receipt capture and all the actual audit things that she's seen because of not having receipts, and all the ways to put yourself in compliance and ahead of audit trouble with your receipts. So we can't wait to see her and you back on January 11th. Thank you all so much for joining or for watching the replay. Happy New Year. Thanks. Bye.